entrepreneurs, yeah, we got it like that. We built a hella enterprise, education and tech. We doing big money things, and we reigning instead. We successful business owners, yeah, we got it like that. We some entrepreneurs, yeah, we got it like that. We built a hella enterprise, education and tech. We a mighty force to win, yeah, we reigning instead. We successful business owners, yeah, we got it like that. You see, we started from the bottom, now we here. 1 carat, 2 carat, 3 dimes in the till. For each and every stone, blood, sweat with the years. The Lord paved the way, now we can see.
I want to share with you really briefly a document that was given to me by the Alief ISD administration. It's called a settlement and release, and I was told that this is pretty much a standard agreement, which makes this even more egregious. That means that others have received this same kind of document, enabling them to be released, and Alief and that party to agree that they would separate. Listen to this. This is another reason why I believe that it's time for the resignation of those individuals who I called for, starting with Sarah Winkler, who, congratulations that she just won on yesterday the election to be returned as a school board trustee. And so we congratulate you, Ms. Winkler. But at the same time, we ask for your immediate resignation from the Alief ISD for failure to lead, not just in this situation, but in multiple situations in the past. And we'll be glad to document and have a discussion with you. And if not with you, we don't need to have a discussion with Ms. Winkler. This is not her decision. This is a decision for the public and for the community and for those board members who would be around and would encourage her to do the right thing. So we call for the resignation of Ms. Sarah Winkler, current sitting board member. We call for the resignation of Mr. H.D. Chambers for an inability to lead this district. I have always believed that you would be under the thumb of Sarah Winkler, and for the last 2 or 3 years, your actions have demonstrated that you have been either under the thumb of Ms. Sarah Winkler or gladly accommodating her wishes, and those wishes are in fact yours as well. I'm not quite sure, but we've had this discussion face to face, and I'm at the point at this stage right now in our research to determine that it's necessary for you to resign as well. We also call for the resignation of Ms. Gina Tomas, who does not have the qualification to really be the deputy superintendent, but was placed there by the decision of Dr. Lewis Sterner, who himself resigned his position after signing almost a $1.5 million contract, 1 year into a $1.5 million contract, decided to resign and stay home with the family. This was just prior to the Channel 26 News breaking the story of the Alief ISD attempting to sue a family into bankruptcy for being concerned about their special needs child who was autistic. One of the parents is a special education teacher, so I would imagine that, certified by the state of Texas, she might know a little bit about what should be happening with her child. But Alief decided to sue the parents even after they dropped the lawsuit, decided to sue the parents, and on appeal decided to appeal, and then appeal a second time, putting financial pressure on this family, driving them out of the district, and really an attempt to put all the rest of you and other parents on notice that don't mess with Alief ISD. You say don't mess with Texas, don't mess with Alief. Well, the message has spread abroad, but you've successfully hijacked the district, but we're unjacking it at this point. We're setting a few people free. So we call for the resignation of Sarah Winkler, H.D. Chambers, Gina Tomas, Martha Bissett. The special education department and those records are in shambles. I worked in the district. I know where the bodies are buried. We're digging those bodies up and we're being exposed, not because of any personal vendetta, but because most of those children are African American and Hispanic children. And it's a shame, it's a travesty that they and their families would have been disrespected by the Alief ISD, people who have been charged with looking out for these people who are less fortunate. They found themselves in a situation in which they needed the service of the public school system. And Martha Bissett, you are the coach of the team. When the team is losing, the coach needs to go. It's time to go. We also call for the resignation of Eric Nichols, who is the attorney who has sat by and not sat by, but has watched and encouraged the Alief ISD to dig itself deeper into this hole. And if Mr. Nichols, if it is true that you are the author of this document that I'm about to share with our audience, you need to resign just on this document. We need a lawyer that can be a lawyer. I showed this to other lawyers who say they knew you. They said they weren't surprised. I'm surprised, shocked, and saddened. But it doesn't matter because you're getting paid. Win, lose, or draw, it's time out. We have to take his hand out of the cookie jar, people. We have to not allow this lawyer to continue to pillage the Alief ISD treasury. There's a couple other people, but we will leave them right at this point unnamed. No, we have to name one other. We're calling for the resignation of Mr. Brian Brown from the Kilo Middle School. It's a travesty. It's an embarrassment, and in fact, it's a dangerous situation, in my opinion, that is happening on the Kilo Middle School campus. The Alief ISD Central Administration has a wealth of information, a wealth of reports from people, African American, Asian, Hispanic. Now, I don't know of any Asian. Let me take that back. African American, Hispanic, and Caucasian. Okay, if that kind of counts toward Asian, it sounds the same, Caucasian, Asian, or Anglo-American. That this man is having extreme difficulties. He's under tremendous stress. He is not able to handle the situation. And Alief, you need to at least take a look. No, let's not even play that game. You know what the problem is. You need to take action. We want to encourage the parents and others to take a look at what's happening on the Kilo Middle School campus with that administrator. Ask anyone. Don't ask them in public. They will not respond. But ask them privately. Ask someone who knows. Ask people who don't work on that campus who know. Ask someone in the Central Administration Office. Ask someone in the Fort Bend ISD about the principal at the Kilo Middle School. People want to say that Mr. Jones is a disgruntled employee. After I read this to you, I have to agree. I am disgruntled. I have reason to be disgruntled. They'll say that Mr. Jones is an angry black man. I just saw 12 years a slave. I have reasons to be angry as an African American man. So disgruntled, I own that. This is ridiculous what you wrote and what you sent to me. I'm disgruntled because not that it's happening to me. I have plenty of things to do with my life. But the number one thing that I have to do with my life is be a strong African American man, not afraid to speak truth to power. That's the first thing that I must do in this life. So you miscalculated when thinking that a $60,000, $70,000, $100,000 of revenue that you spent of the Alief ISD money to allow me to sit at home. Even my friends who pay taxes in Alief, they were upset that I was sitting at home and they went to work every day and paid me to remain at the house. And these were friends. Here's what this contract said when they asked me to resign. There's a number of points on here, but I want you just to go by. Here's the third point. Alief ISD agrees not to propose the termination of Earl Jones' contract, continued contract. This termination was proposed to the board until I began to distribute information to parents as they picked up their children from the Kilo Middle School. While engaged in this activity, I received a phone call from Human Resources informing me that they decided not to take the issue to the board. They continued with the arrangement for me to remain at home with full pay. Point number 4. Mr. Jones agrees to accept a reassignment as determined by the Alief ISD's administration to another position for the remainder of his employment with the district. I had no idea where they might reassign me. Not that I needed to. No, it's their prerogative to reassign me anywhere. It's important, I want you to note that I had no idea where they might assign me. So listen to the rest of this. Number 5. Mr. Jones agrees and covenants that he will not grieve, protest, or complain in any manner whatsoever the reassignment of his position. Who would agree to give up a right to grieve, protest, or complain in any manner whatsoever without even knowing what they were going to do? This was proposed prior to any knowledge or suggestion of where the reassignment would be. Who would agree to that? Now remember, I'm only agreeing to something that would allow me to work for 6 more months and then be fired in May. We're not talking about extending my contract into another year or 2 years or 5 years or anything like that. We're only talking about what I needed to give up in order to remain employed with Alief ISD for 6 additional months. Now remember, I sat at home for those 6 additional months and received full pay. Full pay. Why would I want to? Let me just finish reading. Alief ISD agrees to provide Mr. Jones with a letter of recommendation signed by Dr. Benitez, which will be based on previous observations and will also include the dates of service and salary at the time of Mr. Jones' resignation. based on previous observations. Doesn't that sound like the previous observations were positive? In fact, I worked for nearly 20 years with Alief ISD and never received a negative evaluation. Why? Because I'm good. I know how to teach. I know how to reach children. I know how to work with my fellow staff members. I know how to give input and collaborate. I know my stuff. Is that shocking or embarrassing that I would sit here and say that I know what I can do? Is it strange that I would know my capabilities and I know my limitations? I can tell you a number of things that I have limited capabilities. But right now we're talking about teaching. That ain't one of them. Yeah, I know that ain't is not a word. Well, check the dictionary. I think it is in the dictionary now. That is not. That isn't. Me speaking in a language that some of you might appreciate better. And let me say it in a way that others might appreciate it. That ain't the truth. That ain't necessary. You have to be able to relate. Number 7, Mr. Jones understands and agrees that he is entitled to no compensation, benefits, or other monetary consideration beyond those benefits derived in his 2012-13 contract. Not a problem. Number 8, Mr. Jones agrees that the Department of Human Resources will provide a neutral reference which will state no more than the position held by Mr. Jones, the last salary paid, the dates of employment. And then he goes on to say, I almost missed this. The parties agree that Alief ISD is not responsible. Alief ISD is not responsible for any employment references that any other Alief ISD employee. Wait a minute now. Alief ISD wants me to agree that any Alief ISD employee or former employee can give they're not responsible for any reference that any Alief ISD employee or former Alief ISD employee chooses to give concerning me. They're not responsible for their employees. You want me to sign off on this in advance? Doesn't this mean that any other employee can say anything about my employment and I agree to not have any response or recourse against Alief ISD? Number 9, Mr. Jones agrees and warns that he has not filed any legal, equitable, or administrative action, including a grievance, against Alief ISD or any of its current, they like saying this, any of its current and or former employees, members of the Board of Trustees, officials, agents, attorneys, or representatives in any court or any administrative agency, federal or state, or in any other form, which action is in any way related to or based upon his employment with the Alief ISD as related to his resignation from his employment with Alief ISD. Let me read that one more time. And I'm going to respond with 3 words. I agree, Mr. Jones agrees and wants that I have not filed any legal, equitable, or administrative action against any Alief ISD employee, current or former, any member of the board, any official, any agent, any attorney, or any representative in any court or any administrative agency at federal or state level or in any other forum which action is any way related to or based upon his employment with Alief ISD. I contacted at least 2 agencies concerning Alief, and in both of those situations, the customer service and the reps that responded to my situation were so agitated by just the disrespect and the blatant and utterly ignorant response of the Alief ISD personnel that they agreed to go above and beyond what they needed to do in the normal course of action to make sure that I would receive whatever I needed to have in order to sue Alief. It's an embarrassment. It's ridiculous. It's ignorant. Mr. Jones waives any right to file or prosecute any legal, equitable, administrative action, including a grievance, against any board member, past, present, or future. These people asked me to give up my right to file or prosecute any legal, equitable, or administrative action against any current or former living soul for anything they've done in the past or the present. They said it at least twice in this document, number 9 and 10. You can find the document on the web at heat.groupsite.com. Mr. Jones agrees to release, acquit, and forever discharge Alief. Here it goes again. Its past, present, and future trustees, officers, employees, representatives, and agents in their official capacity or their individual capacities. That means that as an agent of the district, I'm going to give up my right to sue someone for doing something to me as an agent of the district. And then as an individual, I agree not to sue them as individuals for anything that they've done, past, present, or future, from any and all claims, demands, and causes of action of whatever nature, known or unknown, past, present, or future, state and or federal, arising out of the employment relationship between the parties. That I relinquish all rights and claims under the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That's a shame. You're asking a black man to give up his rights under the Civil Rights Act. The Texas Labor Code. Can't sue. They asked me to give up my right to sue under the Texas Labor Code. They asked me to give up my right to sue under the Texas Whistleblower Act. They asked me to give up my right to sue for any reason, past, present, or future, under the Age Discrimination in Employment Act. They asked me to give up my right to sue under the Family and Medical Leave Act. They asked me to give up my right to sue under the Fair Labor Standards Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and any other state or federal statutory or common law claim arising out of or otherwise related to Mr. Jones' employment with Alief ISD or his separation from his employment with Alief ISD. I'm just going to post this on the web. You can look at the rest of this foolishness that was supposedly a settlement and release agreement between myself and Alief ISD. The only person who would sign this would be a desperate individual, a slave, or just a damn fool. Excuse my French, but just a damn fool. I told you I would only respond. I would respond with only 3 words. WTF. You cannot possibly be serious. Now, what I want to say to my friends in the Alief School District, not just African Americans, friends, Hispanics, Anglo-Americans, Asians, Indians, mixed race, biracial, those that claim no race, doesn't matter, people. It's time for these people to go. There is no room in Alief for white supremacy, for blatant, openly white supremacist activity. Not by the people that we pay. We can't have that. My family members are under the jurisdiction of these supremacists. Your family members are impacted by these supremacists. You can't stand by and watch this. This is not even worthy of a fight. It's so plain, so obvious, so sad that there really should be no fight. Sarah Winkler should do the district a favor. Our district, the Alief ISD, should do the district a favor, resign immediately. HD Chambers, you have been ineffective. We appreciate your work, but the time has come for you to remove yourself. You do not know how to resolve this issue. You fail to have a conversation, a single conversation with me as an employee. You don't owe me that as an employee. You owe me that as an intelligent, respectful man. Someone who you're firing. You could at least have called me in and said, hey, this is why we're trying to fire you and why I have to agree with that, like a man would. Gina Tomas, appointed by Dr. Lewis Sterner, who resigned right after confessing to ethics commission's violations, right after driving Mr. Edgar Dansby away from the board, being a party of that, off the board, the first African American on the board, driven away because he was beginning to tell the stories that I'm telling now. He was beginning to talk about land deals. He was beginning to talk about inappropriate relationships between board members and vendors. He was beginning to talk about the grades, the academics in the district. He was beginning to question your salary, the $1.5 million contract that you signed for 5 years. And then after the stuff hit the fan and you saw what was coming down the road, you chose to, 1 year later, walk away from that $1.5 million because you wanted to be with your family. But you're at work again. You're back at work and away from the family. And I'm absolutely sure that the bank that you're working for is not paying you $1.5 million. And in fact, we have to question whether we should be investing our monies in the bank that you currently work for, if you work for a bank. Who else did we say needed to resign? We said Sarah Winkler, H.D. Chambers, Gina Tomas. Dr. Sterner already resigned after ethics violation for, I think they said he misappropriated $30,000 to $70,000 during the election to help Sarah Winkler get back on the board, and that happened again just on Saturday. Once again, congratulations, Ms. Winkler. But misappropriating what we have understood to be $30,000 to $70,000. Mr. Dansby was accused of the same thing. He misappropriated $29.95 for a robe to wear during graduation because he didn't graduate. He wasn't entitled to the robe. So therefore, the Channel 26 News dug up a lot of history about Mr. Dansby and all kinds of other things and railroaded him out of the district. Not the news, but his own board members. The same board members who campaigned heartily against their fellow board member, Ann Williams, yet she beat the whole board that ran against her 2-1 and won her seat. She remains there. Resignations are in order for H.D. Chambers, Sarah Winkler, Gina Tomas, Martha Bissett, Eric Nichols, and the hapless Brian Brown. We'll talk about this on another day. We're going to bring up more inside scoop. You're going to find out about information that the school district, that the Human Resource Department, that H.D. Chambers have in their possession already. We don't have to worry about your concern over this or them being able to manipulate documents. It's too well documented what they've done. They cannot go back and erase the fact that they placed an Anglo-American male from Hastings High School who was on trial for shooting his wife in the head with a shotgun and killing his wife and unborn child as a result of that murderous deed. While it was being investigated, there was no question of who pulled the trigger, but the Alief ISD, Sarah Winkler's district, decided to send this Anglo-American coach to the Alief Learning Center to work with children that look like me, look like Hispanics in the population, didn't look like them. There's no way in the world those people at the school board, Sarah Winkler, Louis Sterner, John Hanson, and the rest, there's no way in the world they would have sent that murderer, suspected murderer, to be on the campus where their children were. Why did they send him to the ALC? Frankly, Scarlett, they really don't give a damn. Wake up, people.